Okay, so it's totally clear that Skip needs to pay attention to the blueprints for sure, hey? Absolutely. Okay, so did you notice in that video that both Skip and Susanna had a bunch of different emotions? And as the thing went on, their emotions maybe got a little bit bigger and maybe starting to get a little bit out of their control. Now, whenever we're in a situation and we feel our emotions kind of rising up or building up inside us, there's a few things that we need to remember to do. And I'm going to use Skip and Susanna's situation to help us talk about this. So first of all, when you feel your emotions rising up or you're kind of feeling like things are building a bit, the first thing that we need to do is we need to stop. We need to stop and figure out, what am I feeling right now? What am I really feeling in this moment? It's important not to let our emotions come and just like take us away and get the best of us. Sometimes when we let our emotions take over the situation, things can seem a lot worse than they actually are. And sometimes we end up making decisions that we can't undo, things that we might regret in the future. And so we need to stop and we need to just take a break in our minds and we need to recognize, what is going on? What's going on inside of me? What am I feeling? So we need to actually stop and we need to ask ourselves, what kind of feeling am I feeling? So this is just an example of things that you could possibly feel. You could be embarrassed or excited, sad, angry, critical, lonely, happy, worried, scared, guilty. These are things that they might have been feeling in that situation. Now, at the beginning of this, I think Skip probably was feeling pretty excited. He was excited to show off his creation that he had built. And Susanna, she was excited too at the beginning because she wanted to see this awesome play structure. But then when Skip took that drop cloth off and she saw what he had actually built and that it wasn't anything like the plans had said, I think she was, well, there was probably a few things she felt. Maybe she felt sad that it wasn't the way she thought it was. I don't see a disappointed in there, but maybe she felt disappointed. And I think maybe kind of near the end, she was getting frustrated and angry with Skip as she realized that this thing is not going to work the way it's supposed to. And then Skip, I think, as he realized that what the problem was, and at the very end when the whole thing fell apart, I think he definitely probably felt super embarrassed because he could have avoided that problem if he had just followed the blueprints and used them correctly. So it shows you that in that moment, there were lots of emotions and it could have been easy for them to really get caught up in that moment. And if they don't stop and take a look at what they're doing, then Susanna, she might really lose it and get really angry at Skip and really say something really hurtful to him. And if Skip just lets that embarrassment stick over him, then he's just gonna spiral down and just be like, oh, I'm such a terrible person, I can't believe I did that. They need to stop right there and not let their emotions take over. Now, that being said, is it wrong for us to have emotions? No, it's not wrong for us to have emotions. God actually gave us emotions. And He gave us emotions, and when we use our emotions right, and we're actually taking good care of our emotions, then they actually help us to love God and to love others well. But when we let our emotions get out of control, that's often when we make decisions or we do things where we're not honoring God, we're not respecting ourselves, and we're not respecting others when we let our emotions get out of control. So that's one reason why we need to stop and not let our emotions take control. So the next thing that we need to do after we've stopped and said, okay, this is what I'm feeling, then we need to take a step back and say, okay, what's really going on here? So it wasn't wrong that Susanna felt frustrated and maybe sad, but we don't want to let our feelings take us to a point where we're hurting others. So Susanna needs to stop and say, yeah, I'm frustrated, but I need to take care of Skip in this situation. I don't want to crush him. He worked so hard, even though he didn't, do it right. I still want to make sure that I am not crushing him. And so she needs to look for a way to talk to him and point out what he should have done in a way that is not going to hurt him. Sometimes when we stop and we look at the situation, we take a step back, she can realize, well, it's not a house. It's not like, a whole house is going to fall down. It's just a play structure. She can realize it's not the end of the world that it's not done right. And he could probably get help from someone and get it built in a few days here. So when we stop and we look around, we find it's not as bad as we thought it was. And maybe we can find a better way to respond. But there's one more super important thing that we need to do when we're dealing with our feelings. So first we need to stop, and then we need to stop, what are we feeling? Look, what is this situation really about? And then we need to listen. We need to listen to what God has to say about this situation. Earlier on, I told you that blueprints are super important when we're building a project, like one of those house renovations thing. And I mean, Skip was building a real project and he should have followed those blueprints. But in real life, it's just as true that we should make sure that we're following the blueprints and that we're checking the blueprints whenever we're not sure what to do. And those blueprints for life we've already talked about, that's God's word. God gave us the Bible as a blueprint in how we should deal with our feelings. And that's one of the best ways that we can listen to what God has to say. Once we've stopped and named our feelings, looked at what's going on, we can listen to God's word to help us know how to respond. In the Bible, there's a story about how even Jesus used scripture in order to help him deal with his feelings. And I'm going to read it to you. It's out of Matthew chapter 4, verse 1 to 10. It says, "Then Jesus was led by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted there by the devil. For 40 days and 40 nights, he fasted," which means he didn't eat any food, "and became very hungry." I'd be hungry too after 40 days with no food. During that time, the devil came and said to him, "If you are the Son of God, tell these stones to become loaves of bread." But Jesus told him, "No, the scriptures say people do not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from the mouth of God." Then the devil took him to the holy city, Jerusalem, to the highest point of the temple and said, "If you are the Son of God, jump off. For the scriptures say, he will order his angels to protect you, and they will hold you up with their hands so you won't even hurt your foot on a stone." But Jesus responded, "The scriptures also say, you must not test the Lord your God." Next, the devil took him to the peak of a very high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world and their glory. "I'll give it all to you," he says, "if you will kneel down and worship me." "Get out of here, Satan," Jesus told him, "for the scriptures say you must worship the Lord your God and serve him only." Look at that. In that situation, Jesus would have been tired and hungry, having been in the desert for 40 days. And what he did was he stopped what was going on. He looked at what was happening, and he recognized the devil is lying to me right now. This isn't what God's word says. And then he listened to God's word. He remembered God's word and what it said. And then he followed what the scriptures said. He did what they said to do. And that is how you and I should respond. When we're faced with a situation and we're not sure what to do, we need to say, what does the Bible tell us about this? And then we need to remember that and then follow what the Bible tells us. We're going to watch a video to go into this story a little bit farther. And so we'll talk more when we come back.